Replacing losses, I say, yeah, if you're planting a windbreak, of course, it's very important. If you have any misses, to replace them in the first year before the others get too big. That's important. Timing all your operations. To that end, I've given you a couple of calendars in this handout. One is on the following page, which is a sample plan for when to do what task, with a time next to it, and then a box on the side to tick. So I would strongly encourage you to actually make a plan for your planting that you either have in your diary or in your project folder or on your fridge, where you say, in that month I've got to do that, and when it's done you tick it off, and you just go through it like that, so you can't miss it. What not to do or what to avoid, I'm showing you some pictures here. One is that, again, the photo of just going in a paddock and planting in long grass with tree guards with bamboo sticks that get blown over in the wind and that lead to a really, really poor outcome, and back to that, not just money wasted, but also energy and enthusiasm. Everybody that helped with that planting is going to look, and whether they think it actively or not, is going to sort of somewhere even subconsciously say, planting trees out in the paddock is just a waste of time. It doesn't work. There's actually a picture of one of these plantings that I've got in mind on page 5. You see the bottom two photos are actually a before and after. So on the second photo from the bottom up, you can see the grass has been killed. The trees are planted, and the photo below it is probably 3 or 4 years later, with the trees grown up, and the willow is still there in the corner of the photo. That's a typical site where you would never take an excavator. That's on the North Esk River up in Launceston, where pretty well every winter you'll have water over the top of that. Almost 100% guaranteed that'll be underwater, that site. But it's not a fast flowing section of the river, so to spot spray there was quite safe. You know that you're not going to lose your soil, and it's actually so slow flowing on that site that even the tree guards were safe to use. So you still use those core fluid guards because we were 99 point something % sure that they're not going to end up down in the Taima. But you still wouldn't take an excavator there. A mound plough went through there a week before planting, where you see these tree guards in these freshly ploughed paddock, it looks like. And every plant you had to dig into that ground was hard work. You're still working with a mattock, breaking the clumps up that the machine left there. So what's underneath is probably a problem too, because there could be big air pockets under there. But just the physical effort of getting a few hundred seedlings in the ground, when the ground is prepared really poorly, is just hard yakka, totally unnecessary if you followed your plan and you've done the cultivation at the right time. And if it comes up like this, you'd run that smudge over it, or you run the mound plough through 3 or 4 times to break these lumps up. If it costs another few $100 to run a machine up and down, it's going to pay off so quickly when it comes to planting time. Whether you pay for the hours or whether you have good friends and volunteers helping, either way it's going to pay off, because they're going to have the job done in half the time, and they're going to walk away happy at the end of the day rather than completely exhausted with arms hanging. So I would say, you try and get a good tilth. That word tilth, I like that word. You can plant into tilth. People are laughing. I also say that mattocks are funny too, that when I started tree planting, if you left your mattock on the ute and stopped at the pub, it would get pinched. The these times have gone. You can leave a mattock anywhere now and nobody wants to take it. It's just a tool that doesn't get stolen anymore. I think they're really good. I can do the whole process with one tool. I'll show you how we do when we get down there. We often use both. We use so maybe demonstrate a couple of tools. Are you all familiar with these things? Do you use them? Yeah. Yeah. Once you get used to and see what they can do, they become a bit addictive, I think. So we use these even on sites where you can't do any cultivation because of erosion risk. So you go down on a river bank where you can still do some spot spraying. So I'm talking about a riverbank now, let's say, that has got a 1 in a 50-year chance of getting a flood up to where we are planting, or maybe even 1 in 10-year chance of getting a big flood coming through where we are planting. And we say, okay, the soil is a good loam with a fairly decent clay content still, or silty soil that is not highly prone to erosion, especially when there's a bit of grass cover on it still. Loosen the ground up with a mattock, with a sharp end on the mattock. I'll show you how to do that down there. And then we plant with these.
What is that?
So it's a potty putki. Potty putki, or some people call them planting guns. Again, I'll demonstrate down there, but basically you punch that in the hole, open it up, drop your plant down through it, pull it out, and bed your plant in with your foot, so it never bend down the plant. And a good planter with one of these will just almost do it at walking pace, and it'll just clonk, clonk, clonk. Punch them in the ground, feeding plants out of a tray that you carry, and feeding them down between 1,000 and 2,000 in a day to just plant, as long as somebody keeps the plants up to a good planter. The beauty of them is that they punch in the soil and they push the soil aside, and the plant drops down in the hole, and then with your foot you bring the soil back in. So it does a really clean, nice job of planting. It's a good way of getting a root system in the ground without disturbing it too much. These things are a bit like the auger I described before. In some ways this is sort of, particularly for horticulturally trained people, this is a bit of a hard thing to get your head around. That's, you take a core out of the soil and then plug the hole with a root ball. In heavy clay soil, this will sort of glaze the side of the hole too. The roots can grow down through out the bottom though, really well. Where they become really effective is in loamy soil, where you haven't got that problem of glazing the side of the hole. And the other place we use these very much is on the riverbank. So if you now go from that spot we've just talked about, where you get a 1 in a year or 1 in 10-year flood or whatever, you go down on the riverbank where every time it rains the water's going to come up and flow fairly fast, and you're still trying to get some plants into that riverbank. So you know, as soon as you loosen the soil up with a mattock, it's just going to wash up. The next rain's just going to gouge the hole out, unless you pack it back in. It's going to gouge the soil out and take your seedling down the river. That's where these come in. You can actually take a core out, plug the hole with a plant, pack it in hard, and hopefully it'll stay there for the next flood or the next rain event, really. A Hamilton planter, very useful too.